Good morning and welcome to News Conference Extra, a special segment of Today in L.A. Weekend. Joining us from Washington is the Honorable Adam Schiff, member of the U.S. House of Representatives. He represents Burbank, Glendale, Pasadena, and he's the ranking Democrat on the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence. Congressman, thanks for taking the time.
It's good to be with you again, Conan.
So we understand that of late you've become very concerned that the majority party on the Intelligence Committee wants to quickly wrap up the probe into possible Russian interference in the election and possible collusion with the Trump campaign. What makes you think this?
Well, it's a couple things. First, they refused to schedule any of the witnesses for next year, and we have dozens of witnesses that are very relevant to our investigation, and they won't send out letters inviting them to come in. They have also been in a headlong rush to conduct certain interviews this month. So, for example, they've scheduled interviews out of state at a time when members are going to be here voting on the tax bill, and they're scheduling it in a way that they know members will not be able to participate. These are the kind of things you do if you're getting badgered from the White House, from Steve Bannon and his allies, to bring this to an end. It's not what you do if you're trying to do a credible investigation. So there are all kinds of warning lights going on right now. We also saw during a hearing with Rod Rosenstein this week in the Judiciary Committee, the entire Republican membership of that committee attacking the integrity of Bob Mueller, who is a Republican himself, as well as the FBI. So I think there's a concerted effort, shut down the congressional probes, and then shut down Bob Mueller.
Why in that order? Why not go after the special counsel and not bother with House intelligence?
Well, they are trying to impeach Bob Mueller. They're trying to tear down the credibility of his investigation so that they can discredit whatever he finds. But I think they're having difficulty saying that Bob Mueller should end his investigation while they continue to allow the congressional investigations to go on. So I think they view shutting us down as a prerequisite to shutting down the special counsel. The reality is, though, they made a commitment to the American people that they would follow the evidence wherever it leads. And in fact, we have turned up a tremendous amount of evidence of contacts between the Trump campaign and the Russians. We've seen now very public evidence of an intention on the Trump campaign's part to collude with the Russians. And we've seen active collusion with the Russians when it came to trying to subvert the sanctions that were imposed as a result of their meddling in our election. And there's a lot more to be done. But it appears that they're not interested in getting to the bottom of this. They're rather interested in carrying the White House's water and protecting the president, and that is a tremendous disservice to the country.
How much does the fact that we're entering the midterm election season play in all this?
Well, it's clear that the GOP has a political timeline here. They want to bring this to an end as soon as possible. But let's look at where we are. We began this investigation. Our first hearing was in March. So we've been at this for about 9 months. By comparison, the Republicans spent 3.5 years investigating Benghazi. So we have spent very little time comparatively on this investigation, which is global in nature. It's been within the last month that we've had charges against and guilty pleas with respect to two of the campaign's team, George Papadopoulos, who admits now that he lied about being contacted by the Russians, being told by the Russians that they had thousands of stolen Clinton and DNC emails. And, of course, we have the conviction of the president's own national security advisor. So clearly, this is in the very midst of the investigation that they want to bring this to an end.
I need to get your reaction on a Washington Post article recently which suggested that in the daily intelligence briefings that members of the administration are withholding comment about anything involving Russia because it tends to upset the president.
Well, it strikes me as all too true. And what I found so dangerous about this is they can't put certain things in the president's daily brief, intelligence he needs to know about Russia, because it would, quote, upset him. That's a terrible position for the commander-in-chief, for the leader of the free world to be in, where his own agencies, his own cabinet cannot brief him because it's upsetting to him, like he's some kind of a child. On the other hand, the one that is manipulating him is Vladimir Putin, who knows both that he can get everything he wants through flattery, and just laid it on very thick in Putin's end-of-the-year address, where he talked about how well our stock market is doing and talked about what a disservice it was to Donald Trump to suggest that the Russians would ever interfere in our election. All of this, he knows, is just music to Trump's ears, and in fact, it prompted the president to call him and thank him. This is someone propping up a murderous dictator in Syria, someone who has invaded his neighboring country, someone that we're deeply at odds with, that's violating a nuclear treaty with the United States. And this is somebody who, in Putin, knows that he can play on the insecurities and the vulnerabilities of this president in the same way that our own team, our own national security team, cannot level with him when it comes to Russia.
Congressman Adam Schiff, Democrat from Burbank, Glendale, thank you very much for joining.